This is volume 2 of the Frazetta Sketchbook, and again, it's pretty detailed artworks that are shown here, but then also processed, and then the best part, the life drawing. So Frazetta again is was a very famous and still is an influential fantasy artist that a lot of contemporary comic book illustrators and artists look to for inspiration. And one of his strong suits is composition, pen technique, great knowledge of anatomy, and movement. He's always fantastic at showing people in motion. So it's interesting, here they saved the Conan the Barbarian picture for the second volume, because I think there was just a little thumbnail of one of the book covers in the first volume, but here we go. We got a nice poster-sized full page of this very, very famous painting, which was touched up, and they might show it in the book a little later. But the sexuality here, like this, sure, contemporary, feminist movements might object to this, but you can't deny that it's like such a primal visually powerful image. Conan this is what he's supposed to be. He's like a barbarian, and there's beautiful things going on in the background. The wash is just so well done, and there's everything from like the cuts, the hands, the fingers, the way they're pressed against the sword, the dreamlike quality of everything, like the way everything in this pile of destruction just blends in. It's phenomenal. Sheer a masterpiece. So this is the Catwoman, which was reworked many, many times. It's another phenomenal painting. The lighting that he chooses, he emphasizes this, and what's interesting is the arms pull the chest the same way, but the breasts are different. They're like uneven, and that kind of just makes it sexy in a way. And I feel like even women loved his paintings because he created such natural body types, with big hips, kind of uneven proportions, but beautiful symmetry in the face though, So genetically, beautiful symmetry, but then the natural sort of free, nude body, hair going wild, and then the kind of the hanging stomach, maybe she's a mother already, So it's a fascinating approach there to the female figure. Very dynamic here. Great, the way he just shades the fingers here, and they're almost flat, just to get the gesture, the fling of the hand. And then he knows how to go in just enough to get details to create metallic feel and highlights. This is very much Rembrandt-ish, the looseness of those paint brushes. The paint is a little muddied here because he probably did this as a very quick painting. And you can see the underpainting very lightly underneath. And then he just kind of brought these to the foreground. And probably the colors aren't so bright. They're kind of greenish and muddy here because I'm guessing he did it somewhat as a rush. So then, you know, the underpainting was still wet and diluted the top colors a little bit. Well, you know, a painting like this probably took him several days and a lot of intricate details, so you needed to let the paint dry for a week, let's say, and then approach the painting again and fight the impulse to change anything, you know, to stick with that original design and then just go in with the details and maybe have like some sort of reference point nearby so you could get the lighting on metal just right. So here it like shows a lot of finished works. I'm not going to spend too much time on these because they're finished, so we want to focus on like the sketchbook. This is also like a finished ink illustration, but here's a rough one. Very quick drawings. It's amazing how he knows like anatomy and wildlife so well. He's got it memorized. These are kind of like a little wilder as he's searching for the right pose in these lines. This is nice and smooth and quick, you know, needs less lines. But here he's like really, he's figuring out like, does he want the leg bending away or does he want it forward? So he brings it forward and he moves that one away, you see? Because it's like there's those lines here, like the leg is fading, but then he's got the harder lines out in front. So he's making like little decisions in those preliminary drawings. Tarzan. You know, one of the things I've always noticed about it, you see it in some of his paintings, Frazetta's knees, they always have this like flatness to them in the front. And this one I feel like is the closest to like an anatomically correct, but sometimes in his paintings they just like look totally flat. But yet it still kind of works. I feel like, I mean, he knows anatomy so well that he's kind of like making stylistic choices in a lot of cases. Like here, you know, he's really like doing the knees and the leg muscles fairly realistically, like anatomically. However, you could tell like by the strict structure and build up that there's a Loomis method being used there in terms of like the volume and the way he's like kind of sectioning off muscles, like calf, you know, separate muscle here, the shin, and so forth. So it's like you could really see the separations, and that's definitely like a Loomis method, which I'm sure he was like influenced by, because like in that time, like with comic books, you know, you had to produce a lot of artwork to make a living as an illustrator. So you needed shortcuts. You needed to like understand anatomy and just like, you know, you didn't have time or budget to hire a model for every single pose when doing a comic book. So you needed to fudge some stuff. This is a very famous illustration. This one too, this I think was a big selling series of books. The Tarzan books with his covers were big sellers, the Conan ones as well. This is a beautiful sketch, beautiful. I love like the thick pencil here, and like look at the expressions of each gorilla / caveman has such a unique expression. And here we go, the life drawing. Another beautiful set of amazing life drawings. These are probably like 10 minutes, because I remember there was another piece about the same level of detail in the previous sketchbook, and there was like a little 10M indicator that it was 10 minutes. And he captures everything here. Like, he captures the shadows and beautiful variations. Like, you see there's like dark, mid-tone, and lighter shade. And actually there's a fourth, and then just the white. So he's got 4 values already in there. Like, phenomenal. He sees all that stuff, he knows that stuff, and then he's got, like, you know, underneath the breast, he's got the light coming through. He's got 3 values in the breast there. This is very quick, maybe like 2 minutes, but he gets a lot done. This is very subtle too. Less values, but just like really nice, kind of like airy, you know, shadows. Big, thick pencil. You know, he knows how to use it like on the edge there to get a fine line, and then he could like just use the blunt end there for like the roughness. So, you know, Frazetta claimed that he didn't really use any reference for his paintings. And it's somewhat possible. I mean, I think he glanced at things, and I think he surrounded his studio with like whatever amulets or, you know, things when he was painting gold or whatever. And he certainly had a vast database of studies that he made of real life models. So he would put these to memory and be very aware of the lighting, and then he would apply those to paintings. But yeah, I mean, you know, that's the gift really, to be able to like observe what you see truly, and then, you know, go beyond with your imagination. I mean, that's what made him and his work fascinating. Beautiful stuff here. I like how this one is like a lot of shorter lines. Everything's like a little short line, you know, just like the hair, little boop, 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 little short lines, little short indicators. Not a lot of flowing ones, whereas this one, long and flowing, it seems. Like a little bit longer. Like longer, you could see like long lines here. Whereas like this one is a little bit slower and careful in the contour here. Beautiful overlap of the bottom calf meeting the shin bone right there. It's like he's noticing that, and he's like emphasizing it with a hard line. He's exaggerating in a way. It's like, I don't think like the calf comes out over the shin bone, but he's making it as if it does, like just for fun, because it's something he noticed, and he's like bringing it forward just because he can, and he can still sell it. This is phenomenal. The cellulite here, it's like so real, you know. He's using like the pencil kind of on its side to create these wide strokes. And yeah, this is a, you know, great foreshortening on the knee here, on the elbow as well. And he's also like, you know, he's picking good angles. I mean, he might be moving when the model's sitting to different locations. He's like shifting his chair so he can get the right angle that's like challenging and fun to him. A lot of this model, I mean, maybe this is like a certain, well, a few sessions in a row, maybe it was this model. It could be just a very good, reliable model at a studio or someone he hired, perhaps. It's hard to tell, but he really made the most of it because he got a lot of really great studies. And now, more paintings. This is one of those paintings that changed over time. Here's the Conan one. Oh yeah, this is definitely one that changed. This is the famous one that was the original, and then he changed the position totally, made them different, but kept most of the army the same. Yeah, here are like the early photographs. He's so lucky too that he had good photographs of these early paintings, the early versions. Right, and this is like the version before, and then the revised one was this, which I saw at the museum. This is when he's working on Fire and Ice with Ralph Bakshi. His most iconic painting, The Death Dealer. He did several of them. Beautiful sketches here. I like how he just highlights the figure in ink because he's trying to see it like a little stronger, you know, like a little more finalized in ink to see if like this is actually like a good pose, you know, because he's kind of roughing it and then he's just solidifying it to kind of test if it looks good. But look at this, you know, the composition, like boom, and the horses meeting faces like that, and you know, the tail kind of, it kind of creates like an entrance here with the axe and the tail. You could enter here and then it just takes your eye to the meeting here. So it's like everything is like brought back in the center. And then boom, you know, it's like beautiful flow of action. It's one of his greatest strengths is his composition styling. There's a harmony in every picture that he makes. Beautiful, like light watercolor. I love like this messy drip, like he spilled coffee on it or something. Huh. Such rough scribbles there. This is a great painting, and you really see how worn down it is here with the cracking. So he must have reworked this area a lot, or he didn't use the right mix of solvent to, like turpentine to oil, you know, because I feel like it's dry, so maybe he worked too dry in that area or worked too thick and dry. Some of his cartooning. Preliminaries for more Conan stuff. A lot of these were like done kind of like watercolor. They don't look like oil, but he had like an interesting, like really colorful oil style in the early 60s. And I really love that period a lot. Beautiful sketch here. Oh, this is interesting. This is like an early one where it's like less colorful and decorative on the animals. This is kind of a simple one. Just a powerful silhouette, basically. Beautiful. It's amazing to see how well it works in black and white. The values. This is an interesting one because you hardly see the people, and then they blend in. It's something that you notice kind of later. And when you do, you realize the scale. Like, not only are the mountains big, like some monolith of a mountain here. So these creatures must be massive because they're in the background and these characters are in the foreground. So everything just like huge, you know. This is a powerful one. I love stuff like that's like all wild, kind of Last Judgment, Michelangelo type figures. Great watercolor sketches. He's trying to figure out the, I guess the contrasting colors and shades. You know, like when you first see these paintings in their final form, you always get the impression that it's just like magic, you know, he just sits down one night and it comes out of his mind. But it's nice to see like the preliminaries, how much he works at it and then how much he keeps to like the original sketch. And sometimes it varies slightly. This is one of the fascinating ones where he's got like an extra set of abs, and here's the knee thing that I was talking about. See, it's very flat. So he does these stylistic things. Like here in this one, he does the knee properly, but here he stylizes it like it's a choice, and then he adds another set of abs because he's like, it's like it's a choice. It's like a, you know, like it's a cocky choice because he's basically saying like, this guy is so freaking hardcore and tough. You think, you know, you got abs. This guy has an extra set of abs. Again, a great example of, you know, his luscious women that are realistic to some extent, you know, and this is a cartoon, obviously. Beautiful composition again. This is interesting, like there's a kind of a body hidden here. And then the hands and the fingers here, just like beautiful, just great gestural. There's not one character that's like static. Even she doesn't feel static. Yeah, this is one of my favorites because I love the colors and these guys look like animals. This is some film poster that they made. Other film posters. You know, he was lucky enough to get a lot of commissions for these films. There was a period where they were making like cartoon covers, and even in the 80s, yeah, there were some films where they would do painted covers, you know, these action films. Here he is with Clint Eastwood picking up the original. So he commissioned them for the movie poster, and then he gets to buy the original too. This is one I was always disappointed that he changed it. This was the original one, like the Jaguar God, which is a character that was in Fire and Ice. But then he changed it to this, which is like so stiff. It's like maybe more exact, like physically. And then this, he painted over it and like did this, like he just started removing more and more stuff. Like it's ridiculous. It just made it so much worse. Like this is terrible. This is maybe my least favorite painting of his. Like he just ruined it. Yeah, it's a shame. I love this. This is beautiful. What an amazing face. Even these guys, they have lives on their faces. Love this, love this. This is one of the best examples in this book of just great oil sketch. Maybe there's some watercolor underneath, and then he just kind of like goes in very loose with some oil, maybe with leftover paint, just throws it on there, muddied. He had a stroke like late in life. Might have had something to do with the smoking. Lord of the Rings. He did a few illustrations for books for Lord of the Rings. I mean, they're cute. Very cute stuff. Going back to his cartoon history, because he started out like doing animal cartoons. Love this, you know, little animations, kind of little squirrels or chipmunks sticking up. And then love the frog, how one leg is up, one leg down, you know, keeping things dynamic, interesting. Beautiful like readability here, you know, have the figure inside the shadow. So she sticks out, you know, like you see the shadow being broken up, and then you can kind of use your eyes to see the figure. Oh, this is supposed to be Gollum. Interesting. Some Death Dealer. And Came the Dawn. This is like that story that was remade. Well, he was going to make it for EC Comics, and Wally Wood originally drew it. And he did several sketches. Some of them were shown in volume 1 of this sketchbook series. And now you get to see more. I believe this might have been shown in that first series too. They're like kind of repeating a couple. Oh, beautiful stuff. Look at that, like the hands and everything. Jeez. I wonder if he photographed himself. I mean, it totally looks like it's based on him. And I wonder if, especially since like the works are in black and white, if he photographed himself in certain poses and used those as reference. Lovely, lovely. You know, the foreground, just everything. It's just beautiful to look at. I mean, it's magical, you know. And you can really see like that he's using a brush to block these in, and see like and it's more watered down in some parts. The ink. This is great. The Adam's apple and you know, the neck there where it meets, it just, he just blocks it in. It's like, says everything you need to know. Same, the hands are really powerful, only drawn with shadows. Oh. Beautiful angle here. Love how he gets like right on the ground. You know, you get to see underneath the porch up at them. You know, I think he purposely kind of enlarges the head a bit so it reads. Because it does look like his head like is a little big, but I'm pretty sure it's on purpose. Like, he knows what he's doing. The action here is phenomenal. And then like nice tight painted with brush, you know, like the torn shirt, the muscles here. It's like just everything's in motion and powerful. Beautiful details. Like, I wonder if this is a prop that he actually had and he's like drawing it. Great consideration. Yeah, so the premise is that like there's some crazy, he hears on the radio when the story starts that like there's a crazy lunatic woman that was escaped from a lunatic asylum, and she's running wild in the woods, and then this beautiful girl shows up to his cabin, and he, over the course, she's like flirtatious and sleepy and all that stuff, and over the course of the night he gets paranoid that she's the crazy one, so he shuts her out of the cabin. And, you know, he's like guarding the door, like, I'm not letting you back in because you're probably the killer, you know? And sure enough, she gets slaughtered outside, and she wasn't the killer. She was just a gorgeous dame that just needed a cozy cabin to hang out in. And and oh, look at this. I never noticed this before, but you see like the crazy woman kind of running away, real small here. Amazing. We'll have to compare this to the Wally Wood and then really see like how they each handled this. Because I'm sure he might have looked at the Wally Wood version, which is quite amazing. It's one of his most famous stories. And then he topped it. He was always good at like these cartoons. This is one of those paintings that he reworked. I mean, to me, they're both awesome, equally. I don't know what the difference was here that is like so important to him, you know, but this is how artists are sometimes. And there it is. Volume 2, the Frazetta Sketchbook. I feel like this was even better than Volume 1. But, I mean, you know, I could stare at his work forever. So hopefully that's inspiring to you, and see you next time.